Hello and welcome to The Birth of a New Dimension. My name is Aurora. I will be your host for this next hour. I will be speaking about consciousness, DNA, light, and the evolving human form. So I'm going to add an image to the Twitter feed for Birth of a New Dimension that is the intersection of the brow and crown chakra. Brow like right between your eyes, and crown like the top of your head where a baby's fontanelle are located. These are two crucial aspects of energetic anatomy, and the place where they intersect is the very top of your spine. It is the pivot upon which your skull rests, and this is a crucial point in your biological and cellular anatomy and also your non-physical anatomy. It is where two nested perpendicular chakras reside and interpenetrate one another. And I like to say that it is like a love affair between these two chakras, the crown representing divine feminine energy and the brow representing divine masculine energy. So the crown chakra is meant to be like one's inner compass. This is meant to be the sensory organ with which one senses the direction that is God. When I say God, please do not misunderstand the word that I am choosing. I am not speaking of the God of the Bible or the Christian literalist God. I'm not speaking of Jehovah or a humanoid personified God. I'm speaking about God a presence or God a verb, because the crown chakra is the portion of our energetic anatomy that connects us to Source, and Source is also destination. Source, as I have described in the past, is the 0th dimension. If you could imagine that tiny thimbleful of all material and all energy and all consciousness and all possibilities and probabilities that science surmises or hypothesizes might have existed before it surmises the Big Bang began expanding things, that is the 0th dimension. And being the totality, everything is there, including our own consciousness. Your consciousness and my consciousness are both there. So this is part of the getting beyond duality, getting beyond literalism, so that we can have an additional degree of freedom. And that concept is embodied and personified by the shape called the flying rainbow lasagna. Flying Rainbow Lasagna is the shape that I personally am changing and have changed my DNA superstructure into. And I'm speaking about the shape of my non-physical energy field around my body, which is not merely toroidal or shaped like a donut. And everyone has this beautiful donut-shaped energy center, energy field. It is comprised of your 7 energy centers or chakras. Earth also has this beautiful energy field around her, the magnetosphere, and the sun has the heliosphere, and the heliosphere is so large that it extends way past Pluto, way past the far reaches of our solar system, and this is the, let's say, cosmic atmosphere within which the inner planets and the life that has formed and the consciousness that has formed on those inner planets resides, and the heliosphere protects the life within the solar system from the impingements of random or chaotic materials that happen to be flying around out there. So you could even think of the edge of the heliosphere as being the cell membrane, and that you and I and all of the other planets exist within the cytoplasm, the goo that is inside of the cell, and that the sun itself is the nucleus. Brief pause. Well, the sun at the center of our solar system is very much like that divine point of intersection of the brow, which is indigo, and crown, which is violet chakras at the very top of your spine. Incidentally, that little bone up there is called, I believe, the Lud bone by the Orthodox Jewish tradition. And the people that call it that believe that it's crucial to have that bone as part of your skeleton, like in your coffin, for the day when they believe that all life will be resurrected. They believe that that is the crucial little part of anatomy, not your finger bone, not your pelvic bone, but that little bone at the top of your spine. Just a very interesting aside that I was sharing. I'm really highlighting here the importance of the way that these two energy patterns intersect. And I'll get into anthropomorphic seeing as opposed to pure insight and abstraction. And all of this goes to the voice of inner knowing. So I'm going to tie it all together, even back to the hunter-gatherer lifestyle that we all imagine that we have derived from. In much the same way that we are told that we are derived from, the expansion, the spontaneous expansion from the Big Bang. Okay, so the crown chakra is like the compass needle that tells you in which direction is God. Kind of like sniffing, is it over there? Is it over there? Or when I say compass needle, that's a very good analogy because compass needles work according to magnetism. And they measure Earth's magnetic field, and they allow a person with a compass to align themselves effectively to Earth's magnetic north. When the crown chakra is activated, it allows you to effectively align yourself with the presence of the source, with this aperture for higher intelligence. So it is like saying we are a person shooting an arrow, and we are aligning our arrow of consciousness with the target or the source. Or like saying that we have a transceiver that works best with direct line of sight when you are focused on that source. That is when you can best receive information and broadcasts from, and also send information and broadcasts to. The brow chakra is meant to be the apparatus within which the crown chakra does its search. Just like a needle compass is housed within a little glass enclosure, or sometimes it floats on a little thing of water. The brow chakra is meant to be that protective energy to keep out unwarranted influences and allow the crown, the freedom, to find that alignment. So it's like saying, if your crown chakra is like a sniffer dog and it's trying to pick up the scent of a very particular person, that dog will really benefit if it isn't distracted by all sorts of other things, other information, other smells, other people being around. So the action of these two chakras is that the brow is meant to support the crown and block out or selectively edit those perturbations that would make it more challenging for the crown chakra to accurately perceive what it needs to perceive, okay? And all of this is happening on an abstract level. Imagine that I'm describing like the enzymatic secretions of your pancreas. It's very different than saying what it actually feels like to eat food and have it digested. I am describing, in a very neutral and abstract way, the way portions of your non-physical anatomy function. And this is relevant because when we are raising energy up the spine, in the Far East, according to the Hindu or Ayurvedic tradition, this is called Kundalini, that there is a reservoir of energy at the spine, the base of the spine, and that through cultivation and certain breathing practices, sexual practices or abstinent sexual practices, yoga postures, and other forms of non-physical self-cultivation, one can cultivate that energy and help it to ascend and rise up the spine. And as it does so, it circulates through or weaves through each one of the chakras or energy centers and causes an awakening of that level of consciousness. So we begin at the base of the spine with red, and this is the physical realm. And then next, below your belly button, that area of like where your guts are, also in the Far East known as one's hara, like with a soft H, hara. This is like where your life force accumulates. And it's also where you feel your intuition, and it is associated with emotions. And so you would have an emotional awakening there. And then up to the yellow chakra. This is the solar plexus, also known as the human mind. However, I have spoken many times in the past, I define this as a hacked operating system. Humans use it, but it's not made by or for the convenience of humans. And we'll get into the wisdom of voices and insight, but I'm just doing the Kundalini here. Raising up through that daily waking consciousness and then getting to the heart, which is unconditional love. It's like the central processing unit of your being. All signals that are coming from the earthly realm to the non-physical realm pass through your heart, and vice versa. All information and signals that is coming from the higher, less dense realms has to pass through your heart. It goes through your crown, through your insight, through truth, which is the ability to communicate, to clothe or unclothe basic ideas with symbolic language structure, and then through to the heart. So these are the multi-directional circuit that you are. I'm just going to do a brief pause here. When energy rises higher than the heart, it gets to the level of the throat. As I said, that is communication. That is where packets of information are either encapsulated with symbolic language, or symbolic language is removed from a concept so that the pure concept, like imagine an unwrapped piece of candy, is just sitting there. And the level of the brow, that is the level of insight. So now we're at the level of what I would say true mind, true perception, as opposed to the human mind. The level of insight is a level of wordless understanding. If the candy, in my analogy, is a packet of understanding, we wrap it up in a little piece of tin foil, and that is words or symbolic language structure or something that represents what the candy actually is, and also allows the concept, the raw concept, to be shared with others. So if you have ever had a psychedelic voyage or levels of deep, deep insight that were wordless, like in a dream or during a profound moment of connection in nature, you might have found that you tried to access words and or write down the experience that you were having and found that either you couldn't put it into words or that by putting it into words, it changed, shifted, or diminished or took energy away from the experience. And I mean, I certainly have had experiences that are hyperspace experiences that are so multi-sensory on a hyperspace level, it is difficult to translate them into the language of human moving mouth parts. Really, really hard. And that's why I use visual language. It's why I create my paintings and why I create animations, because when I'm in that higher dimensional state, I'm perceiving, first of all, with 360 degrees of my senses, not just looking out of two little apertures in front of my face, but I feel like the panorama all around me. And when you look at my artwork, when you see those paintings, understand that you are looking at a cross-section of that reality. That reality is a world of spheres and nested spheres and vortexes and bubbles or quantum froth. And that is also my representation of the abstract realm. So it's kind of a little bit of a play on words and art, because, you can be an abstract painter or a representational painter. And you look at my artwork, mostly it is abstract in that it does not represent something that we can recognize as being part of the third dimensional realm, like a face or a vase of flowers or a dog. However, I am painting my view from the point of view of being in hyperspace. So I am painting abstractions, but they are representational abstractions. They are true portraits of things that are abstract. And when I said things, I really wanted to say beings. So when I am making these paintings, I am making pictures of beings. And when I interact with them, the beings move, they change and shift and morph, and it's very dynamic. So understand when you're looking at these paintings that it is my best attempt to translate those hyperspace, higher reality experiences into not even a physical, like mouth part language, but a language that can be perceived with our five senses. We're always losing a little bit in the translation. There's always a little bit of entropic energy loss or perturbation or diminishing of the understanding. So this gets me to making a distinction between seeing on an abstract level and seeing on an anthropomorphic level. Anthropomorphic means human-centered. That's what the anthropo part means. So when you have raised your kundalini energy up to the level of the brow, but have not yet connected to the crown, you are seeing at the level of anthropomorphic interpretation. That means that you're not seeing pure energy as it flows in the cosmos. That would be analogous to seeing like electricity as it flows along a wire. I can see an electron is moving, in this fashion. Very non-interpretive, very neutral. That is seeing on an abstract level. However, when we begin to use the human filter to draw conclusions and create a narrative structure at the human level, that is when seeing is most vulnerable to distortions. So it's very different to look with this level of insight at the brow chakra and to see electricity as it flows along a wire and learn from it. Let's say you see human history, like look at a war or something like that, a human conflict. You can apply levels of insight to that human conflict, but it's no longer particle A met particle B and they interacted and then the result was, situation C. Now it is Napoleon decided to invade Russia and the end result was this many number of people died. And the interpretation that we begin to do when we draw conclusions on a human level is vulnerable to misinterpretation. When we see on an abstract level, it is abstract. It is empirical. It is information that you cannot quibble with. You can't say, well, it's kind of like this and it's kind of like this. There's no kind of about it. So I'm trying to speak here about my experience. Of course, all of this, preface all of this that it has been based upon my personal experience. So sometimes when I perceive through my inner eye, I'm seeing on this anthropomorphic level, and I'm noticing either generalized human behavior or individualized human behavior, and I'm drawing interpretations on it. And I'm understanding that it is through a very distorted filter, like a very thick lens that's kind of bubbly and has all sorts of little knickknacks in it, and you're not seeing clearly. It's not a beautiful, perfectly clear window. When I see on an abstract level, because I have brought my energy all the way to my crown chakra and connected to source, then I am looking down the telescope and looking down the microscope at the same time, and I'm in direct alignment with this higher intelligent entity, and I'm seeing abstractly. I'm getting empirical information. It means it is not interpreted. It is not part of a narrative structure. I'm also not drawing conclusions based upon that information. That level of seeing is pure abstraction, and that is what we should all wish to attain, and we should wish for that because it is like the purest and most nourishing food. When we have insight that comes from that level, it isn't distorted. It doesn't come through the human language filter. It doesn't come through the human ego. So that means that you are getting, let's say, 100% of the vitamins and nutrients and minerals and nutrition that comes from that information. And just like everything, when it sits on the shelf, it loses that vitality, it loses information, it loses nourishment. When information goes through these various levels of being stepped down in energy, it loses vitality and becomes slightly more distorted. So as energy travels from the source to your crown and then to your brow chakra, it has been stepped down 2 times. And then when it gets to your communication center in your throat, this I'm describing now an impulse that comes from above. When that impulse gets to your throat, so now we've gone through 3 energy centers. And that it's like saying we've brought that energy into 3 levels of distortion. And that's where we are now, quote unquote, wrapping up the candy in its little wrapper so we can share it with others. Then it goes through the heart. It gets a little bit more distorted. And then it comes to the level of daily waking intellect, human consciousness. So in abstraction, by the time it reaches your daily waking consciousness, let's say it's like, a concept that has changed hands in the game of telephone several times. Each time it is whispered along in the chain of communication, it gets changed a little and slightly distorted. And this is why it is very challenging with one's daily waking intellect and the human language that we have to accurately describe a lot of the insights and experiences that one might have in the wordless realm of pure insight and experience, which I'm calling it hyperspace, or the higher dimensional realms. These are the realms that are often perceived by psychonauts, or travelers of the psychedelic realm, through the use of entheogens, certain plant teachers. However, we can also access those realms through meditation, through breathing exercises, through sun gazing. Inner silence is really one of the crucial aspects of this, and also learning different visualizations. Learning about your energetic anatomy is key to this, because at first you might be like a person who can't hear and you're dancing to music that you cannot actually perceive. But if you follow along with the dance steps, eventually you start to kind of feel the music, and then you grow the ability to hear the music. As you become more attuned through cultivating your energy and through cultivating your energy centers to be more in alignment with higher consciousness, you become able to hear, quote unquote, the great symphony. And you can tell when it is time to play and when it is time to rest, like you play your musical instrument versus resting, when it is time to move, which part of you should move and in which direction. And I'm not speaking about your physical body. I'm speaking about your consciousness, your non-physical presence. Brief pause. So I'm now going to tie this in with the idea of what we are perceiving when we are perceiving verbalized conscious thought within our own minds. Because there was a time when humanity did not have the mind that humans currently have, and I am referring to the antediluvian high sophistication, high technology culture that existed before what is known as the flood or the fall of consciousness. So it is described as Atlantis or Lemuria. Let us say that it is the sophisticated culture that we are meant to achieve again, but of course we never paint the same painting twice, so of course we're always painting the next masterpiece and making it better and better. In that time, language was used very differently. Language was used almost as a performance or almost only for ritual, sacramental use. You would not have to say, please pass the ketchup. Not because ketchup didn't exist, but because it was possible to simply telepathically achieve rapport, which the word rapport, R-A-P-P-O-R-T, this is like achieving a connection, like calling someone on the phone, and to cue them in that you need the ketchup and have them pass it over to you. And all of that would be done instantaneously and wordlessly. No need for the flapping of the moving mouth parts. We're talking about a culture that was more sophisticated. People did not spend their time lifting and carrying heavy objects either. People did not base their economy on the lifting and carrying of heavy objects or the moving of food, because we were light eaters, so we were able to achieve the nourishment that we needed through directly connecting to light that is emitted from our star, without the necessary intermediary of chlorophyll, okay? So I am describing a different level of consciousness. This, even my words that are coming into you right now, this is like the antidote to what has been done to humanity. We were meant to eat pure light. We were not meant to fill our alimentary tract with 3 to 5 pounds of probiotic gut bacteria and use our belly like a cauldron to probiotically ferment and make available the nutrients of solid objects from our physical reality. No, we were meant to be perfectly clean burning engines. Burning is even not the right word. Utilizing. Right now, our bodies are working according to the idea of combustion. Literally, kinetic energy is being created through the caloric burning of energy, and you are creating exhaust fumes in the form of carbon dioxide. No offense, there's nothing wrong with doing that. We were created to do this in this body, and the beautiful plant kingdom was created in order to be our balance, where they would ingest the carbon dioxide and give off the oxygen that we needed, and they're also our beautiful intermediaries in terms of catching light and turning it into solid physical matter. Okay? What if you didn't need an intermediary like an external plant to catch a photon and use it to stimulate your internal matter creation devices so that you could grow more matter? That is what plants do. It's called chloroplasts. That's their internal material manifestation devices. Pretty amazing, right? So in this other time, in this vastly different society, we did not use verbalized, overtly intoned language structures except for formal events, let's say. And the reason for that is when you actually put sounds through your vocal cords, you are agitating reality. You are creating perturbations in the atmosphere, and those perturbations spread. It is one step more powerful to say something with your voice than it is to merely think it with your mind. So it's one thing to have pure insight. It's another thing to consciously verbalize that thought. So my insight might be, feeling a little bit hungry inside. And then my verbalized thought might be, I want peanut butter and jelly. And then even saying that with my voice, I want peanut butter and jelly, that becomes profoundly powerful. The unclothed idea, the concept of hunger, then becomes clothed with language and is able to be shared with and expressed with others by causing perturbations of the atmosphere. Now, if I am simply thinking my thoughts, I'm still affecting others. We are all consciousness. We are all vibrating. We are all part of the enormous symphony of consciousness that is ongoing. You're submerged within it. You can't escape it. If you cannot hear that symphony, that is why you might not know what are the dance steps, when is it time to dance, when is it time to rest, which direction do I go? And the way that we learn to hear this symphony is by getting to inner silence. And I'm getting into this here. Why is inner silence so essential? Because when I say your yellow solar plexus chakra is a hacked operating system, I mean that the language that we're using right now, this set of symbolic sounds and tonal structures that carry concepts, this is not a natural thing for us to do. It's not something that humanity chose to or naturally arose doing. This was specifically imposed upon humanity, and it was not imposed for your benefit. It was imposed for your detriment. So, language in this time and place is a program that is taught to developing human neurology, and it shuts off access to nonverbal insight. As soon as little babies start to learn the verbal language structure, it takes their attention and focus away from the level of pure insight and abstraction. I'm telling you, and of course then, most people, it is not until they're in their teens or 20s, unless you are raised and cultivated by one of the beautiful monk communities of the Far East, where sometimes people are taken, from their home or from their parents at a very young age, and they go to live with the monks and they learn meditation at a very young age. If you are not a part of that tradition, and if you live in the West, it is very likely that it's not until your teens or your 20s that you hear about the value of meditation or try to do it yourself. Oh my goodness. So this is like saying we take babies, we program them with a communicating program, and we don't give them an off button ever. And then they can go develop their own off button or pause button if they're lucky, if they develop their own process of self-cultivation. This, in my opinion, is something that really needs to change. And I know that there will be a different system of education incepted as human consciousness becomes even more sophisticated as we're going through this transition. So I'm advocating that young people should be taught the idea of meditation, which is inner silence or transcending the ego-based, the temporal ego. And temporal meaning submerged within time, not outside of time or connected to the larger experience. That turning off the mind, pressing pause, and turning off the ego is essential for physical health and vitality. Because when you're constantly speaking in your mind with that little verbalized inner voice, that is taking strength and vitality from your physical cellular body. You could even say and imagine to yourself that every conscious verbalized thought, it's like friction personified. And when there is no friction, all of that energy, all of that chi or prana or life force energy that you get from connecting to the source, all of that energy flows in an unimpeded fashion to your physical body, to its digestive and regenerative processes, to the firing of skeletal muscles, and to the positive and harmonious firing of your neurology. This is like saying that when you close down the verbalized thinking structure, you are better able to align your chakras with the source. And when you're constantly chattering inside, like constant verbalizations, most people do not control their minds. Most people cannot control their minds. For most people, the mind is like a spastic limb, an uncontrolled and diseased limb that is never at rest. It doesn't just lay there. It's not a type of paralyzed disease. It's a disease where it is always restless, always talking, associating, dredging up things from the past or striving towards things in the future. And when we press pause on that mind, we are better able to focus on the profound present moment of now. I even think that people do a lot of this inner chatter specifically to take away from the profundity of the now. When people take a psychedelic like LSD, it is a very sudden submersion into this non-verbal, formless type of mind that is really our true mind. And it can be shocking. And there's only the moment right now. There's nothing that led up to this moment, and there's nothing to be expected coming from this moment. And whatever is in your field of vision in this moment is so important and so complex and so interesting. Why would you want to be anywhere else doing anything else? And you can understand that when one is in that mind state, there's very little motivation. There's very little, and not that is a bad thing. It simply means there's no striving. There's no desiring. There's no, I need to do this. I need to get this. I need to have this. Because you have so much in the moment of now. That is so profound that many people can't take it. They are like, let me just talk and chatter to myself so that I am not so cognizant and connected to what is really going on. It's kind of the same level of denial and distraction that most modern industrial age people do when they drive their car. Because most people, if they really thought, I'm driving down this road in a little tin box, surrounded by other people in little tin boxes, and we're all going 75 miles an hour, and if one little tin box does one little thing wrong, then this whole thing could end very badly. No one likes to think about that. People like to think, I get into my car and I get to my destination. I don't think anything about the dangers, the possible mishaps that might happen in between. People even like to be like, I want to listen to NPR. I want to learn something, or I want to, rock out to some music. I want to be distracted from the very real possibility that my journey to the supermarket could end my life, or that driving down the highway to go to work in the morning could end one's life. This is the idea that if you are strong enough, you can use that as like a wonderful seasoning for the way you can season your food to make it taste better. If you're strong enough, you can use that to make your life even more tasty, even more succulent and delicious. The idea that, something, not only did I make it to the supermarket with no mishaps, performing this incredibly dangerous feat that we all do, that's called driving, but I even got what I needed, and I even drove back home successfully. Like, that's a pretty powerful thing, because you look at the other alternatives that can happen. Brief pause. So I'd also like to talk a little bit more about what consciousness is supposed to be like. Because basically, the verbalized mind inside of your own perception, like if you are reading a book, the little voice that is a narrator, or if you think a thought such as, I want peanut butter and jelly, the little voice inside of your head that says that sentence to yourself, that verbalized mind is supposed to be a good guide. It's supposed to be the personified voice of wisdom. It's supposed to be the translator for crucial abstract concepts. And translating those abstract concepts into words is supposed to make them more readily available to your consciousness so that you will act on them. This is like saying the ostensible purpose of your body was not to chew up objects and place them in the cauldron of your belly and digest them. You're supposed to activate your brow and crown chakras and be able to connect directly to the sun in order to achieve all of the nourishment that you need directly through the aperture of your third eye. And I'm telling you this, but in order to do it, it's like saying, in order to run 26 miles in a row without stopping, all you have to do is, train for it. You have to each day, one day run a mile, one day run 5 miles, one day run 10 miles, and keep on working up. So in order to achieve this level of attainment where you can get nourishment from the sun, it's necessary to build those quote-unquote muscles. And those muscles are inner structures. So when I said, at first, you might not be able to perceive the music of the cosmos. You might not know when the dance steps are or how to dance. Being able to do sun gazing is like being able to hear the cosmos and know when it is the right time for you to focus your consciousness on the sun, and being able to have the apparatus built. Like imagine, if you want to run, you have to have leg muscles. If you want to do sun gazing, you have to have the energetic apparatus of your third eye. You also have to have the apparatus of your heart fully functional. And the heart, as I said before, it is the clearinghouse for all information coming in either direction. This must be open. If your door is not fully open, you cannot have guests enter the party and leave the party. This is what this is all about. In order for thoughts and ideas and energy to come into the physical realm, it has to come through the heart. And if your heart is not open, if you are judgmental, then those pieces of information literally will not become clothed with words and available to your conscious mind. A lot of people have been consciously, willfully ignorant for a long time about things like sexual abuse, not only within their own communities or families, but also at high levels of government, political people, and in the Catholic Church and Christian Church. So now people are way more open to perceiving that information. But it used to be that information would come to people and they would be willfully blind. Let's talk a little bit about will, because will is a force of consciousness that exists independent of your physical body and independent of your non-physical body. It's a magical tool. Your will is like a magical tool or muscle of consciousness. And it is what you as consciousness use to get a body and to perform maneuvers with that body. So you might not remember coming into your body because you probably did it when your body was in the womb and it was just forming, but you had to use your will in order to do that. And when you are searching for your will, I will help you. Please move your right arm. What allowed you to move your right arm? I asked you to do it, and you did it. You used your will in order to connect to your physical body and make that happen. I urge you to perform more personal analytical experiments about your own will, to observe how you choose to make your body do things, how you choose to make your body either sit up straight or slouch forward, or how you choose to make your foot move forward and then your next foot move forward and your next foot move forward. This is really a crucial area of personal exploration because will is connected to reality creation. Will is one reason why your operating system has been hacked or hijacked. And will is how you can rescind power from those usurpers and take back all of your own power so that you can be in charge of your own destiny. So will is the force that each one of us used in order to claim or come inside of a physical body here in this realm. It is like saying will is also connected to the first chakra, which is the I am presence, simply saying I exist. Just in order to exist and have a physical presence, it takes willpower. It's like saying I used my will to put my consciousness here, because we are always using our will to place our awareness places. But a lot of people don't know that they're doing this because of the spastic limb of their mind, constantly twitching and not being in their control. They don't understand that their will is being used to either manifest chaos or manifest the opposite of what they desire. So I was telling you that the interior voice, the verbalized conscious mind, is supposed to be a guide and a protector. It is supposed to be able to tell you, look out around that bush, there's a saber-toothed tiger, you better run. Like, it is supposed to be a loving presence that clues you in to certain really important information. Unfortunately, because of the current programming of the human mind, it is the opposite. It's like saying, instead of making food a sacrament, that when you eat food, you're like, this food is special, I put it on a special plate, I eat it with great ritual, I really enjoy it coming down my throat and tasting it. Instead, it's like saying, we're just going to put this food in a trough, we're just going to blend it up or pour it down your throat, like the most unappetizing way to treat food that it is possible, like it's not special at all. That is what the current human mind is treating verbalization as if it is not a sacrament, as if it is not special. And of course, we have had to learn to use language as a survival skill. Little tiny infants, something they don't necessarily want to learn to speak, but they have to communicate for survival. They have to learn to effectively communicate their needs to the people around them. So learning how to say, I have a poopy diaper, is pro-survival, and that is why they download the software. They don't know that by downloading that software, they're being taken away from the connection to source and all of the information and insight and cellular vitality that we get from that connection. P.S. Most people who don't cultivate their minds and who don't meditate during the day, the only time they get those levels of profound vitality and batteries being recharged and cellular renewal, only get it when they sleep. Means you have to turn off your mind just to be able to digest your food, regenerate your cells, heal things that need to be healed. That's what happens when you're sleeping. Your body performs all of these cleaning and fixing and healing processes that it literally cannot perform when you're busy thinking. So most people need to turn off their minds in order to perform those functions. However, this is not really how we were designed. We were designed to have minds that are so seamless and so integrated and so harmonically perfect, like in the way that athletes' bodies are perfect. The muscles and the sinews and the tendons are all in just the right place and there's nothing extra and everything works just fine. When we are like that, then we do not have an interference with these positive body functionings, with cellular vitality. As I stated, if you can during your day, try to imagine conscious waking thoughts as friction that is literally impeding what should be the seamless flow of energy of you moving through your day. So I'd like to also make a connection here to having this internal verbalized structure implanted in the mind and having humans lose vitality. So in the time of Atlantis, this internal voice was supposed to be a voice of wisdom. If you had an internal vocalization come to you, it was important, it was profound, it was something worth listening to. Right now, in my mind, I mean, of course, I cultivate my mind, I practice meditation and silence, and during my day, I practice self-observation, and I watch and I listen to all the thoughts that are coming and going through me, and I'm, very, I am impeccable in what I choose to identify with. Some things are arising from within, some things are clearly intruders or visitors passing through, and I choose not to feed the ones that I don't want to feed and just send them on their way. And really intrusive invaders that are attacking me, I send them back to the source. And I mean, I talk about all of this in protection, self-protection from negative entities. This is lesson 18.4 of Galactic History Level 1 of my lessons for full spectrum humans, teachings rather, where I teach about different techniques that you can use in order to begin getting back your home turf. Your mind should be your home turf, and it should be where your consciousness is able to and allowed to fully express itself. You went through the difficulty of actually growing a fetus in the womb and getting the willpower necessary to insert yourself into that form and manage to struggle into the physical body. Being born is very, very challenging, and stay alive into adulthood. I'm presuming that everyone who is listening to this broadcast is over 18. What an amazing feat that you have done that with your consciousness. Well, you were not designed to come into your body and have your body lose cellular vitality, become decrepit, what people associate with aging. That was not part of the original design. You were supposed to be able to constantly, cellularly renew your physical body so you could always be connected to Source. You could always be healthy. This is what it was like in Atlantis before the genetic degradation, before the changes to the superstructure of your DNA. We didn't have disease. We didn't have unintentional death. Death was literally not in existence. There was only the experience of ascending, or what in the Far East some people describe as achieving one's rainbow body, or basically coming to the becoming an ascended master, coming to the final level of achievement that it is possible to come to. And yes, that might take thousands of years, but however, you can achieve that within the same body if the body is treated in the right way, and the body was not meant to have to be treated like a steam engine where you put coal in the oven and make it hot and burn the coal and make the steam engine go. But that's what we do. I put my bacon and eggs into my belly in the morning and it burns, and it's what makes my muscles go. Well, that's actually not what we're supposed to be doing, but we're in transition, okay? So my little personal anecdote, I'm a walk-in, so that means I'm not the original inhabitant of this body. I came in when this body was age 27, and the previous occupant literally died. And when I first came into this body, I didn't know the rules of the time and place where I was. I thought I was supposed to eat nothing but pure sunlight. And I kept on eating sunlight and staring at the sun. And I didn't understand why my body felt weak, why my body was so skinny and small. I didn't understand why I didn't feel good. And I literally had to learn about food in this time and place. I had to experiment through trial and error, find out what is food, what is good food, what is good food for me. And that, of course, took several years to figure that all out. Like go from what's available, what tastes good, what is good, what actually makes this body feel good. And that took a long time to figure out. And clearly, I still do sun gazing. And so I do both of these forms of ingesting nutrition. And at a certain point, I can tell that we will all be at the level that we will not require chloroplasts to be our intermediaries in terms of ingesting light and turning it into the physical nourishment that we require. In order to do that, what is required is new software. Not new hardware, new software. So I'm saying you don't need to get a new body or have any kind of hardware implants. You don't need technological implants, microchips, nanotechnology, particles, nothing like that at all. You need new software. That means new ideas. And the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is a crucial aspect of the new programming language, the new software for our genetic structure. It is a new shape that you can use, a dance movement of your tiny strings of chromosomes that allows you to shuffle the deck in a better way so that you can make new and interesting combinations that you didn't have access to before. And it's really interesting. If you took any book, even a very poorly written book, but you had the capacity to edit it, you could turn it into a masterpiece. And I'm not saying that my body was a poorly written book, but I'm saying that when I moved into this body as a walk-in, I made changes. I have changed the structure of the genes and the structure of the non-physical energy field around my body. Changed my genes to be shaped like and perform like flying rainbow lasagnas, and changed my energy field to be like a flying rainbow lasagna. And what this means on a level of daily waking experience is that I recognize the singularity that is within me, that point of consciousness that resides at the top of my spine, that crucial intersection between the brow and the crown chakra, that little spark that's there. That spark is the same point of consciousness that exists within the sun. Same point of consciousness that exists within the center of our planet, the center of every molecule and the center of each cell, and of course the nucleus of every atomic particle, and even into the subatomic realm. That this tiny point of consciousness is the same consciousness. It's just moving back and forth between two places so fast that it's as if it is in two places at the same time. That is the new software, and you just got the download. Even if you don't know all of the notes of the musical score instantaneously, that's okay. Even if you need to hear the music played several times before you begin to play along, that's okay. As you begin to hear the music, you'll begin to sense the dance steps. So some of the dance steps of the Flying Rainbow Lasagna are that you're basically against genetic fatalism. Your genes are not written in stone, and your life is not written in stone. And through your willpower and your consciousness, you can choose your trajectory through time. You can choose how your body is made in terms of how it functions, how healthy is it, what physical activities can it perform. You know something? Right now, there aren't very many people who are running the software program that says, I can, jump tall buildings in a single bound. However, you can take whatever poorly written book you were given, and if I give you a pencil with an eraser, you can edit that book into whatever you want it to be. Take the genetic code that you were given by your family and your ancestors and rearrange it so that it says the things you want it to say. Don't believe in, first of all, pre-programmed diseases. No, you don't have to get cancer just because mother or father got cancer, or diabetes, or high blood pressure, or any of those things. No, you are not beholden to the previous generations in terms of continuing their patterns of pain, of suffering, or of, let's say, value systems that need to be changed and fixed and healed, or belief systems that need to be changed, fixed and healed. And that's also pretty big because a lot of people are taught that your job is to carry on your family heritage. That's not your job. Your job is to carry on your consciousness. Your consciousness. You are that little spark that resides at the top of your spine. That is whom you are beholden to. That is the person that gives you your direct orders. Thank you so much for joining me for this journey. I will continue to tell you about taking your direct orders from your higher consciousness on subsequent episodes. Please tune in again, and thank you as we give birth to this new dimension.